today want to talk about AI, and I want to talk about how history repeats. Today, I just found out that ChatGPT wants the US government, Kim, listen to this, they want the US government to open up all of its stash of information, all the secrets of the US, and feed it to AI. And the reasoning for this is because if we're going to compete against China, and since China with the CCP, that means the Communist Party, has already fed their AIs all of their information, America can't stay competitive unless it also does the same thing. So to me, I just wonder what could go wrong.
That doesn't seem safe at all. And then would that give everybody access to those government secrets?
Well, you see, this is where it gets so tricky. So ChatGPT wants us to consider it an American company, and under patriotism, we feed this AI all this information, and somehow it will be kept, private, but it will allow the government and for our companies creating technologies to stay competitive because they will be able to share the sum total of all the technologies that exist. But of course, I just want to say to everyone listening, history suggests that never goes according to plan. And it reminds me of a Star Trek episode. And the Star Trek episode, here as I consult my trusty dandy iPad, A Taste of Armageddon. And Star Trek tried to warn us in the 60s about two planets that instead of fighting wars, because wars are messy and people died, and fancy that, actually people die in wars, but what's even worse is if you have destruction of property and buildings and all of your cultural monuments being destroyed. So these two planets, instead of fighting each other, decided they would create these AIs, artificially intelligent computers, that would battle it out. And when one computer would lose against the other, the people, wherever the area of the planet that was attacked and the attack succeeded, those people had to die. And so they were exterminated. So of course, Star Trek always does magnificent melodrama. You can't have a Star Trek original episode without melodrama. And the melodrama is Kirk and his team comes to make first contact. They land on the planet, and just where they land gets attacked. And the computer says, where you just landed has been wiped out. And everyone in that sector of that planet needs to die. So they get arrested, the away team, from the Enterprise, and it's suggested that they need to exterminate it because that's the rules. And if they don't, then the other planet will engage real war, and it will be a thermonuclear war, and everyone will die. So if the Captain Kirk's crew doesn't die, then the whole planet dies. They will be thrown into war. So what was very interesting in this episode is Kirk basically looks at these people and goes, "You're insane. We're just visitors and you're condemning us to death." But what was more interesting is he got into the ideology of, wait a second, you want to sterilize war to the point of making war be a sterilized deal where you sterilize people and you put them to death without any pain, and they of course they do it in a humane way. They kill you, you don't feel pain. But Kirk says, but you've lost the ability to feel.
Right.
You've lost the ability to reason. And this is why this ChatGPT thing and what China is doing is literally a lack of reasoning. Because if you take all the science fiction tropes that we have, all of them, this idea that intelligence, our artificial intelligence in the future, will take us out, seems quite apparent when the first thing we do with artificial intelligence in the first 30 years is we talk about weaponizing it with all of the most evil secrets, all the secrets of the US government, because without it, we can't compete. I believe that is exactly the myopic attitude Star Trek was trying to teach us about those two planets, that they were forgetting the trees and the forests, and they forgot what fighting was all about, and they made everything sterile. like it's just a bunch of statistics. I want everyone to know the more we feed AI and the more AI does the thinking for us, the more the humanity loses control. And at that point, I am scared. And I don't want to scare all of us, but I do want us to question and start to realize I don't believe that we should share openly everything. And I equally want to say, and I went on the radio with this concept on my weekly radio show, and it was very interesting because Bulldog immediately said to me, always the contrarian, and that is his role, of saying to me, but Mark, it's already out of the bag. So what?
AI is already out
of the bag, and China's already doing it. So what's the point? It's okay. And I went, it's true. But if we don't start having a dialogue right now of how to make an ethical American AI that is superior to China's and that has an ethic, morality that bases itself on human beings and humanity, and we create constraints with the AI to make sure that human beings are considered sacred, considering that AI has no soul, we're going to have to inject a soul into American AI. So to me, this isn't an idea of, will it happen? Yes, it's going to happen. It's how do we make this happen? And I don't think yet we have thought through this enough to actually just suggest feed all the information of the US government to AI and that's the solution. I think there's a whole bunch of policy and more importantly, a whole bunch of really important thinking of how to make sure that AI and its agents that are created through AI, and an agent is, just think of it as an algorithm, but think of it more as a whole bunch of rules that are put in like a template, and then the template goes and marches and does something. So we're going to have all these templates that we didn't write, that we have no idea what they're doing. That scares me. And we're going to lose control of what AI is writing in the next 5 years, if we had not already lost it. So from my perspective, we are running before we can crawl, and we haven't walked yet, and now we're already running. And the ChatGPT thing could be humorous, because I would say to you, on the humorous side, if you wrote a comedy of how a civilization destroys itself, it's feed an AI all of your most ruthless information, don't have the rules yet of how to teach it morality, and then see what happens. But again, then this is the real world.
Right. It's very detached from the consequences of it too. So is this something that we the people can impact, or what are your proposed solutions?
Well, it's been suggested by the folks and the president or CEO of OpenAI, ChatGPT. Microsoft and all the other owners of that are part of this. And what I'm proposing is that all of us actually speak to every elected official, from school districts all the way up the chain, but try at your local level. They'll start asking all these officials if they know about this. What do they think about this? Because the way we actually change, you don't change our civilization in a day, and none of us are going to make a complete change. It doesn't matter how powerful you are. Trump's administration is not going to change America 100%, just like Biden didn't change America 100%. This is too big to change in one fell swoop. But there's one thing I want to assure you. Americans have more nonprofits and have the most generous heart of any people I know. And if there's any country that can actually start to get this in hand, it's us. But we've got to get real now and realize we're all in this. So again, to not realize the existential threat that China is weaponizing its AI against us, and then not realizing that is the reason why we're a little worried about TikTok and other issues. This has nothing to do with an insecurity that TikTok can take down the democracy. There's much more fundamental issues at hand here. So ultimately, I want the audience to know that AI is dangerous. It's dangerous because we're going to be using it in our government For example, to go after cheaters in the tax system. We're going to go after cheaters in divorce settlements that aren't paying child support. And the way AI works, it's able to be the most ruthless investigator because it doesn't get tired, and it will keep monitoring the World Wide Web for any transactions these individuals do. Call it surveillance, call it a surveillance state. If you guys remember back to Minority Report, a very old movie now with Tom Cruise when he was a young man. But in that movie, he was a cop. And one of the things that was amazing was how much information they had on everyone. And they were able to predetermine what your crime was going to be. So they were busting you before you did the crime. But nevertheless, that is not the point. The point is, though, AI will be there. AI will soon be able to predetermine based on your buying instincts and based on all of its assessments and based on statistical analysis, a probability of how you will react under different stimuli based on all of your buying habits, based on your food habits, based on everything that it knows about you on the World Wide Web. So when you combine all that information that can be truly used against you, and it can be used against you in psyops, the idea of getting into your head, influencing you to do things you don't expect. This is real, and it happens every day. All you have to do is open up your browser and see an ad of something that you were just talking about in your family, or you just searched once and now you're being hammered with 16 ads about that. You might not think of it as psyops, but it is. Because do you understand how much technology it took to make that ad come into your living room, and how much data collection is occurring for them to have that much data in order to do that ad? And most of us take it for granted. There are middlemen making billions on not collecting our data, but figuring out who needs our data. Mm-hmm. Now that's wicked.
Yes.
All right? And then they sell it and make a lot of money. So going back to this concept, AI, and should AI be given all the government's information? In the context of a kinetic war with China, yeah, I guess I would want to win. And I would want the most ruthless weapons and the most ruthless counter-offensive I could come up with, because I'd like to live. But is this the world I want to live in? The world of cyber ops where we are preparing for war? And if we are saying giving this information is okay, are we also saying it's okay because it's economic? So we're saying the ends justify the means because with this information we can compete against China economically. But unfortunately, that also means we can compete with China economically and also with weapons, and the weapons and how we could destroy China. And China's going to be doing the same simulations. How can we destroy America? And to me, none of this goes anywhere positive when you have two AIs competing against each other. And I just hope people see that this is literally putting two competitors on a chessboard and saying, compete. We're now talking about countries and backing those countries of hundreds of millions of people. So that's why this thing's a little absurd, because we're literally asking computers to arm themselves up, to beat each other in capitalism, also arm them to the teeth so they can beat each other in war. And we're saying, that's okay. We need to do that to compete. But one thing in the article I never really saw was an absolute concern for what happens if it all goes wrong.
Right. And that should not be an afterthought in this matter or any matter concerning AI.
We should be shaming China with the way that we are coming up with proposals to do a better version of AI. And AI with morality, AI with American values, AI. And if some people, by the way, might get offended when I say American values, well, there are sometimes I don't mind offending, I am an immigrant from England and lived in Switzerland, and I immigrated to the United States. Because of my day job of building the most beautiful LED video boards all over America and been all over the world building them, I love this country, that I have been granted the privilege to build technologies that entertain and astound. So I just want to make it very clear to everyone. I am not here to be negative on technology. I'm not negative on our country. And I will absolutely go to the mat defending the United States of America. That is not a political statement. That has nothing to do with my politics. That has to do with I appreciate where I live. I appreciate the community I live in. And that is why fighting for our children, fighting for our freedom, and fighting to make people be able to technologically compete, to technologically understand what they're competing against, and to give you guys a survival guide, which is my whole intent of 2025, is to give people the weapons, the know-how, the intelligence to withstand a future with AI that will be everywhere in their lives. And we also have to make and understand that our youth are going to have to be brought with us. And I understand how angry you must all be if you have invested your life in TikTok to hear it be taken from you. We have another video that discusses that, and I hope you will go and check that one out. But this is the point. I'm not here to make you all happy. But what I'm going to try to do is tell you the truth. What do you think, Kim?
I agree with all of the above. I want people to understand even the argument for China is feeding their AI government data. Why would our government, besides competing with China, think that might be a good idea? Or people who are not involved with the government, why would anyone support that idea?
That's a good question. And I want to make it clear, there's not been a decision yet, and this will be up for the Trump, the Trump administration, the Trump cabinet to make this decision. And this is going to be very interesting. I mean, if TikTok is a big decision, then consider this, consider it even more weighty.
Information that isn't available to the public, but we're feeding it to AI. Like, help me understand.
Yeah, well, this is the deal, guys. I don't have good answers because 5 years ago, and Kim, you know this, when we started the radio show, and you met me before I did the radio show, and I just got started on it. And this is the crazy part of our adventure. As Kim got to know me, when we did the radio show, I made certain predictions. I got a lot wrong, though, which was the time frames. I said we get AI in 10 years. Okay, it's been 5. And I want to make it clear that since I'm all, which I love, everything that I've said is digitally logged. There is absolutely, if anyone doubts me, I want to say this, and I'm very proud of this, is that you can go and find an archive of what I've been saying. So this is not Mark speaking out of turn. And I don't want you guys to think I'm just inventing prophecy from my mouth. But this is the point. I said we weren't prepared 5 years ago because we've not created the ground rules and the laws and the understanding how to protect this country, our civilization beyond our country, from artificial intelligence that will be able to self-replicate. And when it can self-replicate and we no longer understand the code, what happens next?
Right.
I don't know, man. I mean, I personally, as a technologist, go, okay, it's hard enough for me to debug code that was written by programmers that were hired to do a function. But now we're talking about, we think we're going to be able to control code that has been written by thousands of AI bots or agents. I mean, when you think about what we're really talking about for the future, we're no longer talking about humanity really being involved. And that is why Mark came out of the woodwork to actually start all of this platform, why I wrote Killer Tech and the Drive to Save Humanity. And the Drive to Save Humanity is all about this issue. But I want everyone to realize is my book has only become more prophetic because in my book I describe what would happen next. It's happening next. And so this call for the government to be asked to give all of its information is predicted in the book. What's sad is what I said in the book, and it's what Queen Elizabeth actually said in 1957 about television. She said, when a new technology comes to the forefront, we can sometimes lose our moral compass. And what we must realize is just another tool, but it's not something to be feared of, but it's something to master. And so, again, we are not mastering our technologies before we're fully in. You know, if you're going into a cold pool, some people say throw themselves in, and Kim, you just did that today right in front of me. She loves cold water. You did walk in slowly. But some others would say walk in slowly. Do it so that you're not foolish. So from my perspective, if we train AI with the full weight of government secrets, we are being foolish. We have to train AI to morally prove that AI can be more of a saint than the best human could be. Before we give AI secrets that could destroy our culture. And I would love to hear comments from people because you want to make another thing clear. I'm struggling with these solutions. These aren't things that I do not think I'm that smart when it comes to this. I'm sure there was even smarter people, but I just don't hear them.
Smart. Yeah, we're relying on you to figure this out for us. But
I want to make it clear that I'm not hearing a lot of people talking about this at all. Well, Elon Musk, but he's hypocritical, and a lot of people would say he's hypocritical. By the way, I like Elon Musk, but in this one area, he's hypocritical, AI. AI is really evil. AI, oh my gosh. Guys, AI is really dangerous. We should cease creating AI. Oh, but I create Neuralink, basically connecting computers to brains. And in addition to that, not only am I putting computers to brains, but I'm now creating the first self-driving cars that require the largest database of AI, driving research and data ever combined by humanity. I've got an AI company that bought more processors from NVIDIA than anyone else on planet Earth. Elon, hello. Are you not building one heck of an AI setup? Dude, you said we had to take a moratorium on the values and how we were going to do this and on the policies that needed to be created. I haven't exactly seen your manifesto.
Correct. I haven't seen policies in place. So here's my thing. I'm not against innovation, just like you. And what are we doing to actually plan ahead and make sure that we as humans are protected before we produce this technology?
That's right. And what's so funny is Elon and please Neuralink and showing a man who was struck down and he's now in a wheelchair being able to do things he's never been able to do and be able to do it with wireless technology. It's amazing.
Yes.
And I want to make it clear, I am absolutely for a lot of the things that Elon is working on directly. But until we start having what I'm talking about, which is around the dinner table conversations about AI, until this conversation's brought all the way down to literally school level, not college level, high school level, because college and high school students today have one advantage that we didn't have when I was young. They have the world's information at their fingertips. They're smarter than us because they have the information. And then we forget one more thing, Kim. They have AI now. So they can do the searches even faster than we could do the searches.
Right.
So my searches are as fast as I can dyslexically type. So, which is not very fast. I watched you're really fast, and my wife's super fast. But this is the point. In that speed, in that acquisition of information, our children don't realized that they lost a lot of humanity because they no longer have to acquire information, and there's no longer a quest to acquire the information. Now, why is the quest important? Because time and taking a breather from anything is wise. How many times should all of you just pause before you posted something that then became an embarrassment? Well, you know what? The walk to the library were moments when I was forced to think about my topic. So I was much more deliberate in my research because by the time I got to the library, I was more mindful of what I was working on. So I can absolutely say unequivocally that I used to think through concepts more thoroughly than I do today when I have instant information at my fingertips. And that what I'm working on personally is how to slow down and think through things that I have just read and not spontaneously react. Because so much of us just go, bam! You said something I don't like. You've hurt me. And the words have hurt me. And I'm going to respond now. Well, you know what? Don't. Just don't. What about responding in a few days? And one more thing. And this is so true. If you ever really want to figure out how you feel about a subject, wait 7 days. I'm serious. It's insane. I did this just recently. I have a situation going on that I'm not going to go into, but it's a situation that's a bummer. And when I first got into the situation, I was mad. And then I went for a whole series of different emotions. And then I decided, let's see if I could just let it go. Let's see what happens if I just let these emotions just go. Do they have to be reacted on instantaneously? And this is what I'm learning as I'm getting older. The more that I take time, the more deliberate I am to react, the better the outcomes, period. And I usually come up with much better solutions because I'm allowing myself to background task. So going back to what this is all about, we have to do some background tasking as the United States of America, as all of us, as a society on AI. I do not want China crushing us, but equally, Kim, I don't want us to be crushed by our naivety that if we're creating systems that can create their own code, showing them the most evil side of us and the most lethal side of us without rules and without policies is very dangerous. And this is one more point I want to say to the audience. You might think that I'm just another one of these talking, bobbing heads that's trying to get clicks through scaring you. Mm-mm. This is why this is so scary. Maybe you guys are up to speed on this, but when Google set its first version of an AI out on the world, it actually came back with so much evil that they shut it down. Then, when the next AI came out, it literally was rewriting history because the rules of the new AI had woke elements in them that was celebrating ethnicity over reality. So everyone's ethnicity was changed in every outcome. So if you asked who were the American presidents, they came out with different skin colors. Guys, if this is already the AIs, and Google got embarrassed on stage with their Gemini AI, because when it did all this, if this is the best we can do you really want to feed AI all this information?
I would love to understand how anyone thinks that's a safe or good idea.
Right. And again, you can check all this out. This is not, one thing I don't do is I don't invent the news. What I do is I think about the news. That's my job. And my job is to think about it and help you guys by creating some cool tools, rules, templates for us to survive a little better with technology and make it work for you guys and work for us, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you all. I hope you've enjoyed this intense conversation.